What's up, you dirt bags? Luke and I are back. We've got a huge episode. We've got the drinks flowing tonight. Luke, how we doing, man?
Cheers, brother. What are you drinking tonight? Looks like a stout.
Yep, we've got to plug the Guinness NA. So I don't remember if I've talked about it on the podcast, but I am alcohol free now because I made a bet with myself. It was a business revenue goal, did not hit it. Consequence was I have to give up booze. So I am alcohol free until I hit it, which it's kind of funny because there's a lot of contractors pulling for me. And so we're getting more business. And they're like, all right, let's get Luke back up to boozing again. So
yeah, get him back to boozing. He's a lot more fun when he drinks on these.
So I'll take it. But how about you?
I am Willie's Bighorn whiskey
Shout
with a little
out.
sour mix in there. Willie, our unofficial official whiskey sponsor. If they listen to this, reply to our emails, please.
We'll get that restraining order soon. So
yeah, we will.
So introducing our guest. So we're making dirt.
This is two-time.
Yes, we're making Dirtbags history because we've never had a recurring guest. So this is our very first recurring guest. If you've listened to episode 5, ownership from your employer, you'll know why we have to have this guest on again because so much has changed. That launched July 1st, and we're going to get the whole story here. So without further ado, we've got Dylan Mercier, D2 Contracting, in the studio. Let's go.
How you doing, guys?
What's up, brother? How are you doing?
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you too, my man. Good to see you too. I feel like, and this is weird because I feel like every guest that we have on, Luke, we have like a good connection with them. But I feel like Dylan is one that we've kept in contact with more. I think Dylan and I, we talk maybe every week, Snapchat, text, whatever. We hop on calls maybe every 2 weeks or something. So it's for me, it's been a really fun relationship to grow from that first podcast.
Yeah, man, it's been crazy and we knew Dylan. I don't even remember when we first met, but especially after the podcast, Luke and I were talking, we're like, this dude is awesome. And so it just goes to show, we've kept the relationship going. I know you went out to Fargo and hung out with Luke.
We went to Medora.
To Medora.
Flew in.
Shit.
You flew into Fargo, right? And then you grabbed a truck and then you drove to Medora.
Flew into Fargo and drove cross country to Medora.
Dude, Radiator Springs of North Dakota. I'll tell you what.
That's true friendship right there. That's pretty touching.
That was a really fun trip. Although we didn't do a whole lot, it was just fun to be in that atmosphere. Yeah.
It was exciting. It was exciting to say the least. It was good to get out there and see what the Black Iron Dirt crew does. The Western crew. It's enlightening to watch all my buddies fucking kill it.
One of my favorite quotes. I have my favorite quotes and picture. I won't show you guys the picture because the picture's great. But my favorite quote that Dylan told me on that trip was like, Luke, no offense to you guys, but if you guys can do this, I can do this too. And I was like, dude, hell yeah, you can. We were talking, I don't know, I think we were doing underground that day or something. We were laying pipe. And you're like, I'm not trying to be mean when I say that. I'm like, no, dude, there's nothing mean about that. It's so true though. And I still remember that. I don't know why.
Yeah, it was a good one.
It was a good one.
So for anyone listening, I mean, if you haven't listened to the episode 5, I would say go listen to it because it'll give this a lot more context. But Dylan, you aren't an employee anymore. I'm so stoked to dive into it because we're talking about this. Luke and I's number one, demographic or questions that we get are people that are either new into business, so they're a couple years in, or they're trying to leave their full-time job and start their own business. So you did it. It's not all, flowers and rainbows. So how did you start D2 Contracting and what led up to that?
Honestly, the biggest intuition starting out, and I'm just going to we could put it out there now. After our first initial podcast episode 5, I believe you said it was, Luke, we talked, we probably talked for an hour.
It was an hour and a half after the conversation or after the podcast recording.
And you guys are just like hammering me like, well, what are you doing? Why are you doing this for somebody else? It sounds like you've got, your ducks in a row. You should be doing this for yourself. And a couple of days went by and I didn't really think anything of it. And I of course in real time when we were on the phone after the podcast, I was like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, like I could do it. Let's go. Like it can't be that hard, right? And I don't know, a couple days goes by, we kind of kept in touch, and you guys kept bugging me like, hey, you're gonna do it? And I was like, you know what, I think I am. And it kind of, I mean, it really happened like so quickly, it's hard to really explain. But I would say probably 2 weeks after that podcast dropped, I opened an LLC. I think it was the second week of July. And I was actually still working for my full-time employer. I was trying to kind of come up with a way to say, hey, you know, I think I'm going to move on to bigger and better things. And I can't remember exactly how it happened, but I was talking to a cat salesman about a piece of equipment, and you know how the heavy equipment world is, word gets around pretty quickly. So I think within like 2 days of talking to my salesman at Cat, somehow the owner of VanGordon Land Solutions, where I was working before, I'd found out, and we had a conversation. It was a good conversation. I mean, it was just, you know, I'm going to go do this. You guys keep doing your thing. And that's how it went. So then we went full time, probably like the first week of August, because I think I took on my first project like the second week of August. So I went into things pretty quickly. And what I went into that first project was the best first project I guess you could ask for, because I was way in over my head, and it was fun. It was very, very fun. I had myself and 2 guys out there who had never done a lick of construction before, and man, was it exciting. It was probably a week-long project that took 2 weeks, simply because, you know, the experience just wasn't there. We learned a lot. We got the job done. The customer was happy, and I made some money off of it. So everybody kind of won.
What was the first project?
It was, we did that water sewer hookup and ran it to that.
That's right.
It was a little commercial build out, like a little real retail space. And actually, crazy enough, because I always preach this to people, like, I mean, in every area has this, and you know, you guys can either agree with me or not agree with me, but you always have those Facebook marketplace warriors. And I'm not shooting down any of these people that do it. There's a lot of people I know that make a lot of money off Facebook marketplace. You
used to be one of them.
Yeah, I mean, that's how a lot of people start. And some guy had put on like it was like a Michigan excavating and trucking page. He was like looking for a contractor to do water sewer hookup in Detroit. And if anybody knows anything about Detroit, it's not the nicest area, and it's kind of the wild, wild west when it comes to rural. So I was like, well, that's kind of a perfect place for me to start. Little did I know, the 18-inch water main was at like 9 feet, and I knew it, but I didn't fully grasp it until
I went into it and I was like, I can.
Until I opened those holes up, and I was like, oh, this is okay. So yeah, we ran a fire suppression line to the property. That was a 4-inch ductile iron fire suppression line, and then a 2-inch water service line. I think that was type K copper. And then, like I said, we tapped the sewer and ran 6-inch SDR back to the property, put it under the footing, and left it for the plumbers. And that was my first project. And then right into that, I went into a basement dig, like right down the street, that I had somehow managed to line up perfectly. So I had a 315 on rent that I basically tracked, like, I don't know, a quarter mile down the road to the next project. We just started digging the basement at the next project. So it kind of worked out. But like I said, Detroit's the wild, wild west. That's the only place you could get away with that. If I tried to do that back home, Livingston County, Brighton area, that would
get you.
Yeah, that would not be good. If I were tracking a 315, even if it had rubber pads down the road, somebody'd be like, what are you doing?
Yeah, they'd call you in for sure. They did the same with Fargo.
But that was the first project. And that was a project too, where I met a contractor I still do a lot of work with, a really big solidified contractor in our area I still do a lot of work with now. So it was like a blessing in disguise. They kind of almost, I wouldn't say they like respect probably isn't the right word, but they admired the fact that myself and the 2 people I brought out there jumped into something like that. Cause it's not something, especially, you know, any water sewer hookups I was used to doing. I was used to, you know, digging up the stop box or finding the inverts. I had never dug down to a sewer main or a water main. I had never seen an 18-inch ductile iron water main until that day. I had no idea what they looked like.
Learn by doing, which is cool.
Yeah, and that's where I was like, whoa, this is sweet. Like, I really like this stuff. And so I started doing some more things with that contractor and started doing some sub work for them. And that's how I got into like the water main stuff. And that's kind of how it's all progressively taken off. It's exciting.
Hell yeah. So from like the start, I remember after that podcast, we were grilling you. You were like, dude, like, good for you for giving your all to this guy, but like, why aren't you doing it yourself? Like, I remember that conversation. You're like, yeah. No, he's a good guy and he means well. And then like a week later, you're like, yeah, I think I'm going to start my own.
Yep. That's exactly how it went. All it takes is a little push. And there's 3 people I really give a lot of the credit to, and 2 of them are you guys. So thank you. You guys really helped me out. And I appreciate the push, because who knows where I'd be if had we never done that podcast. I don't know where I'd be. I don't know where I'm going to be. I'm just that way.
Dylan, do you hate that episode is out there?
I do. Yeah. Oh, I absolutely hate it. It's that was my second podcast, believe it or not. And it sounds like my first. I like to think I have gotten a little bit better at, because I don't know, being on camera and talking and really, sharing insightful information to people isn't as easy as it seems. Like, everybody probably thinks like, oh yeah, put me in front of the camera, I can talk. And it definitely comes over time. And I can tell you, like, I probably listened to like 15 minutes of that podcast and was like, yeah. But it's my history and it's made me, so I can't.
Yeah, it is what it is. And I always thought that I was going to get a text from you being like, hey man, like, do you mind if we like take that episode down? I was just going to say no, because it's history. Like, Luke and I have some podcasts up from the original Phaser Friday. Like,
and we should really probably take those ones down.
Like 2 years ago, and they're still picking up searches like today. And I'm like, I don't know.
Please don't listen to those. Like,
please, don't waste your time with any of those. Honestly, your guys is mine. It's
right. So with all that, check out Dylan's episode and
episode 5,
first episode from 2 years ago. Link will be
links in my bio.
Link in bio. That's funny. I think my favorite part about that episode, and obviously the one now, is just to show the progression, because like we were kind of talking about earlier, year one, not even year one, you started, August, right? And it's December 16th right now. The amount of like work and projects that you have taken on, that not just anybody could do that in a year one, or, even like a 7 to 6 month time frame, right? Yeah. How did that kind of come about? What did you do? Obviously you don't have to give away all of your secrets, but how did that happen?
I'll be honest with you. A lot of where my work comes from is me leveraging personal business relationships I have from the past, from the present. And I mean, I'll leverage a business relationship I made yesterday, tomorrow. It's one of the biggest, and so many people have a hard time kind of understanding that. Like, you could tell, the average person that like, oh yeah, you need to leverage your business relationships. You need to be talking to the right people. You need to be presenting yourself correctly. But at the same time, you need to know what you're talking about, which I've always kind of, as much
you have your background in it, right? You went to school for it. You've been in the industry.
And I was going to say, as much as I don't like to admit it, like, college did help me a lot. And I think that's also where I, really grew my network in the construction industry, in a commercial space. The amount of people that I met in a 4-year time frame doing that, I do work for all those people currently. So that's what really helped me, is my network and my ambition, that it may be a little like over the top sometimes. I may, make some dumb decisions from accepting a job standpoint. Like, I'm probably taking on some jobs that would not be smart for someone to take on 4, 5, 6 months into business, but I'm accepting the risks and accepting all, the responsibility that comes with it. If I fail, what's the worst that could happen? I say I fail and try again. Like there's really, to me, there's no, I don't know. There's just no, there is no failure to me. I could fuck up 20 times and I'm still going to keep just slowly going up.
Slowly growing. Yeah.
Dylan, I want to challenge you to go a little bit further on leveraging your business relationships. So for somebody listening, and I totally agree. I think you're set up very well with those relationships. So for somebody that may feel like they don't have those relationships, how can they leverage their past relationships or go out and get some new ones? And then what would they do to leverage those?
Yeah. So I'd say the first place I'd start, your family tree, right? So your parents, your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, your grandpa, grandmas, you need to be talking to all those people. My parents, I remember like the first day I was full-time with D2, the first thing I did was go to both my parents and say, I went to my dad. I said, because you're around your parents enough, you pick up on things. Like my dad has buddies who are pretty big contractors. My mom has some friends that may know somebody. And I went to my dad. I said, I want this guy's number. Can you give me this guy's number? And can you give me this guy's number? And I'm not expecting work from them.
Yeah.
But to me, all I need to do is call them, put it in their ear. Hey, I don't know, Bill, it's Dylan, Mark's son. I mean, and I can word it exactly. Let's give out some information to the people, I guess.
Yeah,
let's dish it out.
Come on.
Yeah.
Take another drink. Come on.
Like Bill, hey, it's Dylan with D2 Contracting. It's Mark's son. I'm probably going to start with, I know, you've got a company you use for all your site work. But would you mind putting me in touch with the owner of that company? And 9 times out of 10, most people are going to be like, sure, what the hell do I have to lose? I mean, they might call the person up and team up for me. Like, hey, Al at so-and-so excavating, I got this kid. He called me. He's a good family friend of mine. Just chat with him on the phone. If he wants to take you out for coffee or something, just go do it. Yeah. And that's a lot of what I do. I walk into businesses. It's almost like, I bet you sometimes it's almost considered like stalking what I have to do. Like today, for example, I found a site work project through a third-party site I use. The company that is the GC on the project, I don't know very well. I know their name. I know about them. So the first thing I did was go to LinkedIn, and because I knew connected with somebody at Ronish Construction Group just from, I don't know, probably back from like the Eastern days, honestly, from school. And that's another thing, going back to school, when you go to school for a construction management degree, you're around like, I don't know how many kids I graduated with in that program, but you're around like, at least 200-300 kids a day in those classes who are all going to go get jobs at companies like that. So you need to go back, and I find myself doing this all the time. I'll be like sitting on my phone, just scrolling through my contacts, like who would know this person, or how could I get a hold of that person? So that's kind of, what I do. And going back to my story, I knew that this kid worked at Ronish. I sent him a message on LinkedIn. I was just like, hey dude, like, you guys have a site work contractor for this project up in Heartland? And he's like, yeah, we do, but email the chief estimator, which would be his boss, email my boss and just kind of tell him that you're looking to do like smaller 1-2 acre site work projects, because we don't really have anybody right now. And the company we use for our bigger projects kind of like shrugs those off. And that's the thing with today's economy right now. Everybody is trying to get in as much work as possible before this downturn comes that everybody's talking about. So these big guys and all these big players are not even paying attention.
Loading their schedule.
Jobs. Yeah, they're loading their schedule with these, $5, $6, $10, $20 million projects. And these little $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 jobs are just slipping through the cracks. And I'm right there just waiting for them to fall in my lap pretty much. So he puts me in touch with the chief estimator. I email him and he's like, yeah, actually we are looking for like a smaller site work contractor. So this could probably work out. We'll put you on our bid list, and the next project we have, we'll at least let you throw a number at it. And I was like, perfect. That's all I need. Because I know I'll come in under everybody. That's all you got to do. And I don't mean, and I'm not telling you to go underbid people. That's not the way to do it. You have to make sure you know what you're doing when you're estimating a project. That's, I mean, shoot, even a $2,500 project, you could royally screw up if you don't know what you're doing estimating. Thankfully, I have a good background in estimating. I feel confident when I put these numbers together, like, and a lot of times too, I'll know who I'm bidding against. It's like, okay, you know, the XYZ company, I know they're going to be 60 grand higher than me because they've got to pay to keep that office busy, who's estimating all these projects. When it's just me estimating the projects at 10 o'clock at night after working all day.
Fuck yeah. You can take a little bit off the top.
Yeah. So, and it's not free, but you get what you're hopefully you're catching the drift there. I mean, how else could I get into the leveraging relationships? And that's another thing too. Like, even if you don't really have to necessarily leverage relationships either, it's still good to call other people that you've never worked with before and tell them that, you know, give them the same kind of spiel. Like, hey, I want to learn this stuff. I'm not super well-rounded. For example, the water mains. Once I did that first project where we tapped that 18-inch main, I was like, this is cool. I want to do this. So the first thing I did was call the company I had who came out to do the tap, because I couldn't do the tap because I was not licensed. You had to be bonded to do a tap in the city of Detroit. And I probably had an insurance policy pulled like 2 days before that project. I don't remember, right? So bonding was the last thing on my mind. So I was like, all right, I know exactly who to call. I'm gonna have them come out here, do the tap. And from the day they left that project, I think within 3 days, I showed up at their office and was like, you guys got any extra work you don't want? And they were like, yeah, we actually do. Like, there's so many little things that we get that we just do not want, because right now in today's world, everybody's chasing after the big bucks. They're not paying attention to these small jobs and they're slipping through the cracks. And it's a feeding frenzy.
There to scoop them up.
Yeah.
You're so right on. Just everybody's looking out on the big fish right now. We had an instance on the same thing, but it actually turned out to be a really big project that we bid, but it was very small for this contractor where they're like, we don't have the resources for it. We would just rather have somebody else do it so we don't get ourselves in trouble too. So I was like, hell yeah, we'll take it any day.
Yeah. As long as you know that you can take on the risk and you have people willing to back you from a financial standpoint, why not take on the risk? What's the worst you have to lose?
Yeah, Dylan. And it's interesting too, because, you know, when you say like a small project, it depends on who you're talking to, because somebody just starting out in their business and it's a $400,000 bid, they're just like, most likely like, hell yeah, I'll take it if they can fulfill the work. But somebody that's been doing it for 20 years, that's doing these $20 million jobs, $250,000 bid, they're probably not even going to take that, you know? So it's interesting. Like, it depends on who you're talking to, where, if you're a contractor that can get it done and you're doing 500,000 a year and it can take you up to that next notch, that next level, I mean, you can definitely go get those and pick them up. And I feel like that's going to the source of where these projects are coming from, instead of just trying to go D2C and like direct to the consumer and get all these one-off projects. Like, who would be that one source? And I guess it's not really a question, but you know, finding that one source that is pumping out these smaller projects or getting these leads, showing them like, hey, this is what I do. I can help you. I can add value to you if I'll take these off your hands. And a lot of times, as you've seen, it works.
Yeah, 95% of the time it does. There's also not a lot. There's also that 5%, you know, margin that there's and if somebody out there goes to try this, do not let that 5%, you know, kind of
disgruntle you
from doing something like that, because you'll get some nasty people on the phone, man. You'll get like, you know, mother effed off the phone, like, the fuck you think you are calling me asking for my work? Like, trust me, I've got it. You know, granted, I've been doing it for 2 years, because if I wasn't doing it for D2, I was doing it for somebody else. So I'm used to it. I can take that. I can be like, okay, bud, like, why don't you just relax?
Get off your high horse. Okay, you're the coolest guy, you know, we get it.
So that's one thing that, you know, I'm sure everybody tries at first, like, oh yeah, like I'll just reach out to this person. And there's probably a lot of people out there who get those, first 3 or 4 nasty phone calls and they're like, screw this. I'd rather just sit around and wait for the work to come in. And that's
what you can't do.
Yeah.
I feel like if you sit and wait for it, you're going to screw yourself.
Yeah. But that also, I mean, yes and no. I mean, if it depends on how quickly you want to grow. If you really do just want to be that guy that, does a job here and there, and you are just kind of waiting for referral work, that's fine. A lot of people have done really well doing that. That's just not me. Because if I did that, I'd be, doing final grade for, a new yard install or a boulder wall. Not to say I wouldn't do that. When I started this, I told myself, I was like, and I know a lot of people will argue that the residential industry, helps with your cash flow in the commercial space, in the municipal work. But if you can find somebody, like I said, who can back you financially, who will trust you to go in, perform the work, do it correctly, and they can make money off you, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, okay. And
when you say someone backing you, you're talking like a trade partner.
Trade
like another company that like, hey, if I do this work for you, can I scratch your back and you scratch mine, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Another contractor, even like I've gotten to know in the last 2 months and it's crazy how it all comes full circle. I've gotten to know a really well-established financial advisor in the city of Brighton, where I'm from. And turns out, and it all came from a Reaching Higher class, which is, it's a group here that I'm a part of. And it's like a leadership group. So that's another thing. Go out and, join the Chamber of Commerce, join these leadership groups, find these business owners, find out where they hang out. But I met this financial advisor through Reaching Higher, and now I'm getting these lines of credits to go purchase, $100 grand worth of materials, 75 grand worth of materials, 40 grand worth of materials. I couldn't even purchase 10 grand worth of materials. So you have to, you got to develop those relationships. It's all about relationships. It's all about it. And you can get by without them, but to me, that's the biggest thing. And it's helped me to this point. So.
Yeah, Dylan, as I think that this will bring up a good point and something I wanted to talk about too. So you went through your first 6 months here, and we're talking about, getting jobs and doing all this. And it feels like as we're in December right now, you're kind of setting your feet and looking ahead to the new year. Yep. I'm sure you're looking at goals and like targets and things like that. Anything that sticks out to you, or what are you looking to do in 2023?
So 2023, 2023 is going to be a very interesting year. I wish I could tell you how I think it's going to go, but I truly can't. Between now and the end of January, and I can just, flat out say this, I probably have 2 jobs. One of them is for an electrical contractor. We're setting some pole bases for light poles. We're setting some transformer pads, and we're doing, I don't know, probably 1,000 linear feet of trenching. I have a demo job, and that's really it. So my plan, and that could all change, because again, my biggest thing every day is to get on the phone, call people. And I stole this from Will Schuler back in, and this is again, kind of crazy how it all worked out. He put a podcast out like that kind of pumped me up to start my own business with Aaron Witt. I don't know, that was probably back in July or June or whatever too. And he said when he started his business, he called 5 people every day. Since I started D2, if it's a weekday, Monday through Friday, I call 5 of the most random motherfuckers that I can find. And whether that's through third-party sites or Google or literally just searching like, GC near me. But going back to goals, honestly, I've been meaning to sit down and kind of, really figure out, okay, what exactly do I think we can do? Where do I think we want to be? How many guys am I going to take on in the spring? Because that's another thing that's really been like in the back of my head, because at some point I'm going to have to kind of like step away from it and let it become a moving beast and allow people to kind of, I guess, how would be a good way to say this, kind of create their own paths within D2 contracting. Like, and everybody that's worked for me up until this point, and I've had a lot of people reach out for jobs too, which is awesome. But everything that's worked for me up to this point is I've just told people like the ball's in your court. Whatever you want to do, feel free. I like if you and I've got one guy now, he's awesome. Like what was it? 2 Sundays ago, we worked like Monday through Sunday. He was here the whole week. We worked Monday through Sunday. And I asked him, like, do you want to work on Saturday and Sundays? Like, we may as well. What else are we gonna do? Like, we got to build this business somehow. So like I've got to really like let people kind of form, their own personality within the company, figure out how they want to do things. And that's going to be semi challenging for me just because I do like to kind of have my hands in everything, but that's one thing that I'm going to learn to get better with over time. I'm sure I'll have employees now that I won't have in 5 years because that's just the learning curve, and it is what it is. But from a goal standpoint, I can tell you right now, and we'll step back even further. When I took on that first job, I think it was the first week of August, like we talked about, I've got a note somewhere. I told myself, if I don't make 250 grand before the year breaks, it's a failure to me. And I think we hit that. We finished that job up in Port Huron. So it would have been the first week of December we hit that. We dug a like $7,000 basement and I hit it and I was like, holy shit.
Fuck yeah.
Like, I never ever thought, no, it costs 240 grand to go make 250 grand. So don't let that.
Right. But we get it.
So
we're on business.
But honestly, if going into the new year, 2023, to me, like if I don't at least go do $1 million, like I don't think that I accomplished what I can accomplish.
Yeah.
The work we're bidding, I'm bidding at least a job a day.
Yep.
Finding the time to do that is the hardest part, but they've got it. And it's at that point it become a numbers game, right? Like, okay, you're going to bid 10 jobs. You're only going to get one of them. Mm-hmm. You might get 2 of them. You might get 3 of them. And if you're really lucky, you'll get 4 or 5. Yep. But it's kind of like up in the air, and we'll have to circle back on that one, as the White House press would say.
Yeah, we'll circle back on that question.
Circle back on that question because I truly don't have a good answer for you yet. And I really need, and that's been in the back of my mind, I just haven't had the time. But I think the biggest thing would be the $1 million mark, I think is 100% doable. And a lot of people may look at this and be like, dude, you're out of your mind. But
no, not at all, dude.
I don't think so at all.
Yeah. If I were to, if I was gonna say if I was a betting man, but everybody knows that I'm a fucking betting man. Yeah. I would put $1,000 that you hit $1 million in 2023. I have no doubt about it. Just from the conversations that we've had, and just what I've seen. Yeah, I would have 0 doubts.
And where it goes from there, I have no idea. I truly.
Yeah, exactly. And Dylan, I think it is important because like having a goal like that, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just like if that means you're netting 400,000 or 10,000 of it, that part doesn't matter, but you do need those goals in place, in my opinion, so that you're like shooting for something. Yep. And I love to have, no matter what anyone else thinks, I love to have a revenue goal in my head. Like whether it's, usually I go by the quarter. So every 3 months, what revenue goal am I trying to hit? And that just helps me, stay on track with like, there's all the good stuff that happens, all this other stuff, but it's like, at the end of the day, it is sales and you need to sell to run a business, and then you got to make the numbers work as well. So I think having that goal is just one piece of like the whole, all the goals that you'll set for next year.
Yeah. I'm excited to see where things go. I don't know. The chaos is fun. You guys had there was a title of a podcast, something about chaos, organized chaos, something.
You're wearing the fucker's sweatshirt.
Was that with Taylor?
I shouldn't say that in like a mean way because I actually really like Taylor, but the beef on TikTok, people think that I fucking hate him. I'm like, no, I don't hate him.
Yeah, it was running on chaos. It was Luke. That was credit to Luke. I mean, he came up with that. He was on a dry spell, for a few episodes, and all of a sudden, like he throws that in the group message. He's like, running on chaos. I'm like, that was perfect.
I like it.
I think I've had like the last 3 titles though.
You have.
Yeah.
No, I mean, this is an easy one, but I had separation season, but I knew that was going to be the title the whole time.
Yep. One clap for Luke. Way to go.
Good job,
I got
Luke.
this one.
Anyway,
Thanks,
back to Dylan here, Luke. Back to Dylan. So going with like goals, Dylan, and I know this is very different depending on who you are. And obviously, I feel like I know your personality pretty well, but let's talk about new business stressors. Right? When you started your business, did you, I don't want to say think, but did you have kind of an idea of the stress that comes with it?
No. Yes and no. Where I'm really lucky is I got to witness firsthand the stress and turmoil within my family for the last 15, 20 years.
Yep.
Because my parents are business owners. So I was there at the kitchen table, you know, the 5 o'clock dinners where my parents look like they're gonna kill each other from across the table, right? Because they work together, or, you know, my dad showing up at home at 9 o'clock at night because he's just been gone, you know, doing whatever he needs to be doing, or, you know, vice versa. So I've seen it, I've been around it, but to truly feel the gut-wrenching pain and stress is another thing. You can always, like everybody always says, like, oh yeah, like you can pretend that you understand how that person feels, right? Everybody feels things differently. Everybody, you know, reacts to things differently. But I didn't really like, you know, I always had the stress of like meeting schedules regardless of where I was, or you know, providing a good service regardless of where I was, and doing the right things. Like there's a lot of stress involved with that too. But when it's all on you, like when it's on you to keep guys busy, when it's on you to, you know, I mean, there's so many there. We could have a whole episode about this, but
just on the stress. Yeah.
It's totally different. And one of the craziest things, and I will openly admit this, like, and it sucks because I have all these friends who are successful. I have, you know, you guys, I have Taylor, I have all these other friends in the industry who, you know, who've got the equipment. They've made a name for themselves. They've got the trucks, they've got the guys, you know, everything looks great from the outside looking in. And the first like 2 months, that was really, really hard for me. Like it was hard. And that may sound like fucked up, but like, it's hard to, you know, see my buddy Luke with a 315, you know, what was a 317 that I know you don't have it anymore. What'd you have out in Medora? The 316, 317?
Oh, 316. Yep.
Or, you know, like just, it's hard to see all these people like, man, I want to be that tomorrow. Right. So you get that ambitious, like, oh, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to go bid this $1 million job. And you kind of get like, I'm not going to word it how, you kind of start thinking with, you know, with your
thinking with your head, but it's, you know, it's the wrong head.
Yeah.
Dude, I get equipment boners all the time. I'll fucking say that on the podcast.
So, you know, 2 weeks in, I'm looking at equipment like, oh, I'm gonna go buy this. Like, I need this, and I still to this day don't own a piece of equipment. And I'll openly admit that, and that's because I've made good relationships where I can pretty much go pick up any piece of equipment from an excavator standpoint, all the way from a 336 to a 303. So like that's helped me exponentially. And before I had access to that equipment at rates that I can't even, like, the rates I'm getting for that from a rental standpoint is, you know, it's outrageous. Actually, the favors that people have done for me to see me do well is what's really helped me now, and it's driving that success even further because like I said, I have people backing me. But the first 2 months, really like sitting in that position, like, man, I want to be this tomorrow. That was the hardest thing for me to accept, is like, as fast as you want to grow, and as fat, like, you know, you want to have these cool TikToks and Instagram reels, and, you know, you want to be Snapchatting all your buddies, like, look at this fucking thing I just got, like, fuck off. Like, I don't see you with this, right?
Yep. Flexing on them a little bit.
Yeah. Like, it was hard, and it's still, I mean, I'm still like, sometimes just like, God damn it. Like, I just fucking want one thing, like just one thing, but it's just not, I wouldn't have been able to do the things I've been able to do this fall had I taken on a payment for a piece of equipment, because, you know, there was a week or two here or there where we sat bone dry, not doing anything. So like, I mean,
that's part of building though, right? coming from, again, we'll call it the year one, right? That's what you're supposed to do. I feel like you are supposed to, develop the relationships like you had said, but really kind of figure out how they can work for you, which you have. And that is with the equipment piece. That is the work piece. I personally, if I didn't have to own equipment right now, looking back, I probably wouldn't own any equipment. If I could rent for a really good rate and not have to worry about it later, fuck yeah, I'd do that.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I figured out. Now I'm like, I'm crunching these numbers and comparing bids to other companies who I'm bidding up against from, bid tabs. Once the bid tabs get released after everybody's bid it, I'm comparing numbers and I'm like, holy shit. Like I can compete. I can still, make money.
Still make money.
And I don't have to own any of this. Like I can get 4 pieces of rental equipment dropped off at a job site and still be within the same ballpark as a company that, uses a 1995
Correct.
like 314 and like, just a clapped out loader. And dude, if you're doing it that way with paid off,
good for you, right? Good for you, whatever.
You're making more money. But everybody likes new iron, right? Everybody like, the black 315 or the whatever.
There is something to say about, putting your own spice on things, right? And if you can do it, but don't overcommit yourself to something just because you want it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a really hard pill to swallow. And whether that's whether I should openly admit that or not, I don't know, but I'm going to. But I've learned, and I'm learning more every day, like, holy shit, like just using, and another thing too, like subbing people out for jobs. I realized like, holy cow, I can pretty much do all the work for somebody who just isn't capable of getting a project like this and give it to them if I trust the fact that they can do the project successfully. It's like, all right, I mean, then I can have, that's a way for me to have 2 projects going at one time. I'm not renting, because that's where I'd really get caught up and really, tied up, is if I'm running 2 projects at the same time with 4 pieces of rental equipment on each project. That would really like that's where rent doesn't make sense. But if I've got one project with some rented equipment on it, and I got another project with a company out there who's got their own equipment, they're making most of the cheese, but I'm still making something. Like it's worth my while. And it's
100%. And you're also learning the process too, right? Learning how to do it, learning the ins and outs. And it's, I don't want to say you're learning on their dime, right? But you're learning by using their work to them. You're learning while using them as a connection to where if you need help, they'll give it to you.
Yeah. Sorry, I got this fucking piece of hair right here. There we go. Anyways, where was I going with that? Yeah, you just like using help, and everybody always wants to say like, oh, I'm self-made this, self-made that. Like, dude, without all the help I've had from other people and there's been some jobs I've been on where I had to call, so-and-so company out there and be like, dude, I need help. Like, I just need help.
And even like advice, like when you say I need help, I feel like advice is a huge help, and not to be scared to ask it. Yeah,
that's one. Yeah, like and that was a really hard thing for me too, for like, especially starting out, is like, you have to like ask for help. You have to ask questions, and you have to kind of just like suck up your ego a little bit and just be like, all right, like, dude, I don't know how to do this. And the responses a lot of people would be amazed at the response you get from that. Like, really? And I told that to the first project I did, going back to that water main and the sewer tap, the GC, where there was a pre-con meeting. So it was me and a couple other trades that he had on site. And it was the first day we had started. We were still waiting for the 315 to get dropped off by Cat. And we're kind of all standing there and everybody kind of dispersed. And I looked at him and he's like, you ready? And I was like, yeah, I am. And he's like, you all right? And I was like, listen, I want to be honest with you. This is going to be a little difficult for us. And I'm just telling you the truth now. I'm not going to screw anything up. We're going to figure it out. It may take me 3 or 4 more days than it should, but if you just be patient with me and allow us to kind of figure it out as we go, I promise you will get a quality of service that anybody else would give you, if not better. And the guy was like, dude, you're good.
Yeah.
Like,
Thanks for getting it done.
Yeah. Like, and I mean, it's just crazy. I could never, like 2 years ago, if I would have told somebody, like I could never like even picture myself telling somebody out on a job site as a superintendent at like a 12, you know, when I was supering a $12 million middle school renovation in 8 weeks. If I had looked at a trade contractor at that job site as a superintendent and been like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, I would have been chastised. Right. Yep. But looking back at that, I wish I would have looked at some of those trades and been like, you guys got to explain this to me more, because I don't know what you're even talking about.
Correct. Yep.
And I wish I would have done that.
It's okay to ask that question, to where I feel like it's kind of a forbidden question that people are like, oh, if you ask that, you're nixed, you're outed. See you later. You can't be in the contracting world anymore.
Which our industry, you have to be able to take the heat, and you have to be able to take the shit. One of the companies I do the most work with, they still like they have this ongoing joke every time they pick up my phone calls, regardless of who it is. I don't care if it's the owner's son, or like somebody else, who's like a foreman at this site, because I do a lot of work with them. Every time they pick up the phone, they're like, D2 estimating, what's up? Like, they're just like, oh, you can bid all this work, but you don't know how to fucking do it. And yeah, well, that's what I got you guys for, right?
Yeah, that's why I know you guys. That's funny.
My company's name is D2 Estimating and not D2 Contracting.
That's fucking
I always tell them, I'm like, you guys just fucking wait. I swear, give me 2 years, give me 3. Let me get some guys in here that know what they're doing, and you guys are gonna really like,
you guys are gonna be coming to me for work.
Yeah, it'll be funny how it all plays out. And I don't know, it's D2 Estimating.
And it will all play out too. And like, you got to take the heat too. And it's just like, don't take yourself too seriously, because it's going to come,
Yeah. And at the end of the day, like this industry is, everybody is all big and bad and tough, and everything's always serious. I know there's the horseplay and the joking around on job sites, but if you can truly be like genuine with somebody and just, like I said, just tell them like, I need help really bad.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to tuck my tail between my legs, and I'm probably going to lose some money on this, but I need you to help me. Yep. And I don't know, it works.
We call that our tuition. If we lose money on something that we're doing, whatever we lost is the money that it cost us to learn how to not to do that again.
Because you know what's going to happen? The next time you go to do that, like, I remember the first hydrant I installed. I told him, oh, I got this. Like,
it's fucking it up, screw it on, and you're good.
Yeah, it's 2 megalugs, a ductile iron 90. We're good. And here I am thinking the fire hydrant comes all in one piece, because up until then, every hydrant I saw came in one piece.
One piece, yeah.
This hydrant shows up from the water authority, and I have to put it together. And I'm like, oh my God.
Where are the instructions? Are they in like a box in the
pickup? I just remember the guy looking at me like, are you like, you got this, right? And I was like, yeah, we're good. Just
don't worry about it. See you later. Thanks for dropping it off.
I think it took us a full day to put it together. Like, I don't even think we put a bucket into the ground, because we're just sitting there like, okay, like, how are we gonna do this? But now I know. Like, I think I could put one together with my eyes closed. Now, could I actually? Probably not, but I think I can.
What are some of the qualities that you look for? Maybe somebody that is working for somebody, maybe they're not happy, but they can maybe take steps, or these steps, to maybe grow within the company or create that opportunity. Give us what that looks like for you. Like, what would those steps look like for you to be like, I need to do whatever I can to keep this guy?
Yeah. So the biggest thing about being a leader, and whether or not you're a leader and you're put in a leadership position, it's your choice to act on it. So if you're not a leader, you should probably figure out how to be a leader. And again, that goes back to like leadership classes, like I talked about. Leadership is a trait that a lot of people possess, just probably genetically. That might be not the right term, but I think I was kind of born with more of a leadership mentality, so it helps me. But the biggest thing about being a leader is you have to know, like, you have to be able to understand people. You have to be able to look at somebody and say, okay, like, this guy, and it's not knocking anybody, like, this guy truly wants to work, 7 to 5 days a week. He's, he doesn't want to work Saturdays. He most certainly doesn't want to work Sundays, and that's fine. I'm not asking anybody to work Sundays. Starting out, we've had to, because it is what it is. I have schedules to meet, and it's me and 3 other guys usually.
Yeah.
But you have to really understand the person before you can kind of take them on. And I've done this actually and I've been really lucky because I have friends like you guys. I have friends like Taylor. I have friends in the industry that have allowed me to kind of almost step back into the social media sphere without really skipping a beat. And in turn, I've had a lot of people reach out to me via DM, TikTok comments. I mean, or just straight up like calling me and saying like, hey, I have a job. And and there's been a couple people where, I've told them, not yet, but please call me back in 6 months. Like, let's find a place for you. And some of these kids and it's crazy because some of these kids are like 18-year-old kids who just graduated high school. They send me a resume off my website that Luke built, which is flawless, by the way. Let's all give a congrats to Luke there at Faith Marketing. But I've gotten resumes sent to me from kids that just graduated high school, or like this kid that graduated high school early. So he's going to be done with school probably today, I would assume, is when all the high schoolers go on break. So he's going into January 1 as a fresh out of high school, 1 semester early 18-year-old looking for a full-time job in the excavating world, has zero experience, doesn't know shit about fuck. Right. That's that. I've had somebody say that.
That's a Ruth quote.
Yeah. And I told him, like, dude, the fact that and I asked him too, like, where'd you apply? And he's like, well, I sent you a resume and like some other like giant company. And I'm like, dude, like
one of these.
Yeah. Like you're going to be a union operator with amazing benefits. And don't get me started on unions. I live in a unionized state. This is a democratic state. It is what it is. But that's if you truly want to start out in the heavy equipment world in our state, that's probably the best route to go, because you're just not, if you want to, and you can start with those small companies, but you're not going to get those benefits. And maybe it is a good time to start with those small companies because you're still on your parents' insurance policy. Your parents are probably still paying your phone bill and kind of helping you out here and there with gas. So you could probably get by with one of those smaller companies. But if it were me looking to get in the heavy equipment world, I'd join the unions operators right away, just because and you're going to learn and somebody's going to teach you. How well are they going to teach you? I don't know. But again, going off on a tangent. So I have these kids reach out to me and I kind of have to tell them, like, I'm sorry, like, call me in 6 months. And that's been kind of the spiel I've given a lot of people. But I've had a lot of people also reach out to me who are probably more qualified in a sense on a job site than I am. And I'm like, holy shit, I have to give this guy the opportunity, right? So, and I tell the same person, or I tell each person the same thing. And I think I'm really going to use it moving forward. And it's basically, all right, like figure out because most of these kids still have jobs and they're just kind of like, oh, I want to work. I'd rather work for you. Like, I want to grow a company. I want to see a company grow. And I'm like, great. I love that. Find a day you can work. I'll give you days that we're going to be out on a site. Just come out there. Let's just meet out there. I don't want to go meet over lunch. I don't want to go meet over a beer. I don't want to go grab pizza. Just come out to the job site. And the first thing I do, I've had 2 kids show up. One was a kid I went to high school with, and we never, spoke in high school. I mean, and I don't mean that in like a derogatory way. I just graduated with 500-600 kids. Like that's just bound to happen.
You weren't in the same classes, different sports. Yeah. Different passings.
So this kid's like, yeah, I've been running equipment for 5 years since we basically got out of high school. Like, let me come try it out. And I was like, all right, come out to the site. Let's talk. First thing I do, I'm like, get in that machine. And
see what you can do. I like that.
They're like, what? And I'm like, whoever I've got running the machine at that time, whether it's me or somebody else, I'm like, get out, let him get in. And, without a ton of direction, and maybe this obviously this method will need some tweaking as time goes on, right? You've got to account for safety and whether or not you should put somebody in a machine that you've never seen in a machine before on a job site. That's open for discussion from a liability standpoint. But, I told the kid, I was like, get in the machine. And he was like, all right, like I've never, and, I think his excuse was like, I've never ran a John Deere excavator before. I've never ran a Deere 160. I was like, I don't care.
They're the same as a cat. They're the same as a Komatsu. Like, they fucking pull the levers, guy.
The kid gets in, and I don't remember what we were doing. We were digging it was like a 8,000 square foot basement. It was huge. So I was just like, just dig some holes. Like there's nothing you can screw up. We weren't even close to our grade.
Yep.
And sure enough, I mean, and you can, and I don't like this either. Like you could tell the first 10, 20 minutes, this kid was nervous. Like, oh, dude, like, why are you doing this to me? Everybody's just standing there watching, laughing, pointing like, oh, yeah, what the fuck are you doing? And then like you walk away and kind of forget about it. And you turn around and you're like, oh, this kid's fucking just killing it over here. Like he's
doing it on his own time.
Great. Yeah. Like, and putting people in those stressful situations, there's a lot of people who probably disagree with me on this. I think is like it's the quickest way to find something out about somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You can learn a lot about somebody putting them in a stressful situation for 10 to 20 minutes. If I got somebody hopping on the machine after 15 minutes, throwing his fucking hat on the ground, kicking the dirt, like, oh, fuck this. Like, what the hell? Like, right away, like, okay, next.
Probably don't want him working for you. Or, I mean, even if you do, they're going to take a different type of training than somebody else would.
You shouldn't necessarily rule somebody out like that. They may just have issues that, stem further back than that you need to address prior to just throwing in a machine like that.
Yep.
But honestly, like bringing people out on a job site and just kind of throwing them in the fire and being like, I'm going to leave for 2 hours. I'll bring you guys back some lunch. I got to go meet somebody.
See what you get done.
See what you can do. And trust me, we've already, I don't even want to go down the laundry list, but we've already fucked up rental machines, blown hoses, spilt fuel in the back of the truck, whatever, blown tires. Like we do, it happens to everybody.
Yep.
And I tell people that. Like I had one kid who I stuck in a skid steer, never ran a skid, and I put him in it the entire job. I was like, dude, just figure it out. This is the perfect place for you. And he backed into a tree and it kind of put a dent through the cat, the mesh on a cat skid.
Yeah, like in the back.
Put a hole right through it and busted the AC condenser unit. The kid was so fucking scared to call me, like would not call me. So I show up like the next day and I was like, what happened? And he was like, dude, like, I am so sorry. I was like, dude, it's fine. Like,
it happens.
We're good. Like, trust me, if I would have been in that thing, the fucking tree would be through the cab. Don't worry.
It would have been a lot worse.
Yeah. Like, dude, I get it. Shit happens. Like, it's how you react and how you kind of adapt and overcome it. I don't know. Maybe it's just like part of me. I can like read people pretty well and be like, okay, like I can see like, how he's reacting, how he's kind of handling that. I don't know. There's a lot about employees that a lot of people, and I've worked at places where that's common. Like you just get looked past, whether you can't do something right there on the spot. I don't necessarily think that you should just be, demoted. Give some 10, 20, 30 minutes. Like give them a day, give them 2 days, let them fuck something up. They'll never fuck up again. That kid will never put a hole through the back door of a skid again. I can promise.
Be a lot more careful.
And if he does, he's probably not the right guy for the job, and he probably needs to move on to the next one, because that's just being, that's
being careless,
being destructive, careless. That's a whole nother topic. But employees are fun. I think it's the hardest part of owning a business, dude. And keeping them happy is one thing I'm gonna have to learn too, because right now, like I'm starting everybody out at 25 an hour, and I've also had people in the industry like, dude, you're fucking crazy.
Yeah,
like crazy for starting somebody out at 25 an hour.
Yep.
And it's like, if I don't, I feel like, and this is part of like me too, like, because I was always that kid, like I want $25 an hour, and I'd have grown ass men look at me like, you're funny, kid, like that's hilarious, let's start with 18.
When we're starting at like $12 an hour, you're like, no, we're 25.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe I'm sure that I'll get taken advantage of a lot, from that sense. Like, okay, like
you're gonna have to monitor it. Right. I feel like the employee side is tough because you can never make everybody happy. But what I've seen in just the owning space, in attracting these, younger guys or people to come and work for you, they want to work for these younger companies, right? They don't want to go work for these bigger municipalities because they see guys like you, they see guys like Taylor, they see guys, just these younger business owners that understand like, hey, shit happens and they're not going to get nixed right away. And that's what they want to work for. They want, and like the one guy said, we got to grow this somehow. He sees the potential. And that's something I feel like has to be reiterated to the crew. Like, hey, I'm here to grow. but I need you to grow as well. And everyone's got to be on the same page.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as everybody's on the same page, everybody has one goal in mind. And that's one thing, again, like during the hiring process, or I guess you could say my site interview process. Like that's the first thing I tell somebody on the phone. Like, if you're not willing to grow with us, to fail with us, and to make, and this probably isn't the right way to word it, but to make sacrifices for this company as a whole. And that I'm not asking you to make sacrifices for me. I'm not asking you to make sacrifices for D2 contracting. I'm asking you to make sacrifices for myself, D2 contracting, and every single dude around you. Like, we're trying to do one thing. Like this is, I'm not doing it. And I tell people this too. I'm not doing this for myself. And, am I? Yes. But at the same time, I'm not. Like, I've always been, in team sports. I like just being around, I just like the mentality.
I think you got to tell them, like, hey, you do have to sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
The guys do need to sacrifice for the company, because if they don't, why are they there? Right.
Yeah.
When I'm looking to take people on, I want to see initiative. I want to see them busting their ass and showing like, hey, I will sacrifice my time now to know that we're going to get somewhere in the future. That's how I see it. But then, I had a really good train of thought too, and I was on a roll and I got distracted. You were talking about putting them in a stressful situation, right?
Yeah.
Put that person in the stressful situation to see how they react. I think that is honestly key. I know I've done that a couple times, to where guys have come to me and they want something. Okay. Mm-hmm. I've got it noted up here, but I'm going to test you to see if that is something in your wheelhouse. Yeah. If it's not right now, let's learn how to get you there. But I want to see what type of capability you have.
Yeah. No, there's a lot to it, but being able to read people and really understand,
stuff.
Human psychology is crazy. It's interesting. I mean,
that's one of my stressors. I know we talked about stressors, but like keeping people happy is very stressful.
It's hard, dude.
It's very tough
in today's world, when a lot of people feel like they're entitled to everything. And I may be one of those fucks too. Like, I think I'm entitled to the world, but if you go,
at least you're trying to go get it.
Yes.
Right? You're doing what you have to do to try to go get it.
If you can show that you're willing to work fucking circles around the dude next to you for something,
you're going to go a lot farther.
You deserve the world. I mean, there's really, I don't know. That's hard work goes a long way, and it goes. Yeah.
Amen to that, brother.
Yes, sir.
Hell yeah. Well, boys, I think that's a wrap on the second interview with Mr. Dylan here. So
the man.
I know on the last episode, obviously it was a little different. So last question would be like, if anyone wants to reach out to you, obviously like you're super open and honest about everything. So like, how should people reach out to you, and like, how can they stay in touch with you?
Honestly, the easiest way to reach out to me is via email. The problem with Instagram, and I've noticed this, and I'm really bad about it, the messages are so filtered. Like, I don't see like a lot of the message requests, and I feel bad sometimes. I'll click on it and be like, holy fuck, like 2 weeks ago, this kid asked me this, or that guy asked me that, or dude, I've had fucking 2 girls in the industry message the account, which is crazy. I never
get them in.
I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but I think email would be the best if you want me to see it, because and I'm kind of fucking like kicking myself in the ass here, because remember when we all first met, I think it was Luke E. Remember, you were like, I want to abolish emails.
Yeah, that was me.
I remember that conversation.
I was like all about it. I was like, dude, fuck emails. Let's abolish them. Let's text. And then I got
here. You're already like, no, only email me. I won't see if you call or text or fucking.
You're getting old on us.
Email or that's it.
And now I get fucking 50 phone calls a day, and I'm like, yeah, don't call me.
Yeah, just fucking email me.
Like at the end of the day, I have like 30 missed texts, and I'm like, yeah, maybe don't text me either, because I know there's been times where like.
Don't talk to me.
Yeah, both of you guys have texted me, and I know it's the same. It's vice versa for you guys. Like, you've texted me, and like a day later, I'm like, holy fuck, I never answered Luke.
Yeah, and you get busy and life happens, right? It is what it is. But email, you got Instagram, you're on LinkedIn, TikTok is getting busy.
Anything. Yeah, honestly, anything. If I really trusted all you guys out there, I'd put my phone number out there, but unfortunately I don't.
There's some weird people out there.
Can't trust all the dirt bags. Sorry, guys. But
I
yeah,
a little secret. It's on my website, so just go search.
There you go.
There you go. But yeah, go give him a follow, Dylan. I mean, dude, thanks a ton. Like hour and 20 minutes just flew by. So Luke and I, we're pumped to have you on again for our first ever recurring guest. And yeah, we appreciate you being on, man.
I feel like I talked way too much. I am super grateful you guys had me on again. It's exciting. I'm always willing to share information, share my insight, tell you about all my fuck ups, tell you about all my good things going on and everything else in between. I love shooting with you guys. I had fun.
Cheers, boys.
Oh yeah, boys. Cheers. We'll talk soon.
Bud.